What was the moment that make you realize that there is a need for change?
It was really during COVID when I really started on my personal development journey. Because I was driven, that's no doubt about that. But to push myself harder, to do more. I was doing things too mechanical, writing down 1,000 times. It wasn't working for me. And that is really when I thought, if I want to change something, I also need to do different things. But then I also realized to go to the next level, you need people. Self-actualization requires more people. You can't do it on your own. A lot of women especially have this problem. And also in the corporate world, they keep on adding stuff to their to-do list. They, I can do that.
And then what helped you to overcome that?
Dreaming bigger, really thinking deeply about what do I really want. In the beginning, I had difficulty with defining that. Is it $1 million? Is it
Welcome to another episode of Extraordinary Leadership podcast. My name is Dagmara Aswerk. I'm host of the show, founder of Extraordinary Leadership, and transformational executive coach. And in this episode, I am joined by one of my incredible clients, Marlies Hazelaar, who is a founder of Let Love Lead and Weight Loss, and who is a self-leadership coach that spent over 13 years in corporate world. In this conversation, we are going to talk about the journey, the transformational journey that Marlise went through, and I had the pleasure to guide and support, and the journey to rising into the next level of potential, the next level of leadership, impact, trust, and boldness. It will be a pleasurable conversation and very insightful for you if you are interested into growing to your next level and you feel that there is something more within yourself and you are ready to go to the next level of impact. Because in this conversation, we are going to talk about the journey, the breakthroughs, the challenges, and how it led Marlise to embody the next level and transition to a purpose-driven business owner. So let us start. First of all, I want to welcome you, Marlise, to being here, and so grateful that you're here, that we can meet in Dubai. You traveled a long way, and
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and to be live with you here. It's really amazing. A dream come true.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's you don't
Yeah.
do on a daily basis, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah. And I was thinking, because we want to take our listeners through the journey.
Mm-hmm.
So let us begin where it all started for you. And maybe you would like to share, what was the moment that make you realize that there is a need for change?
Actually, my transformational journey, or the decision that I made for myself that there was more than I was currently doing or having impact, it was really during COVID when I really started on my personal development journey. Yeah, I did some training, some courses, but every time I felt kind of pushed to do things, it was so mechanical. Of course, the results didn't come as I had expected. And that was really, for me, a game changer to really look at what I have been doing, because I was driven. That's no doubt about that. But, to push myself harder, to do more, at a certain point wasn't going to help me, really. And then I saw your post on LinkedIn, and I thought, yeah, let's have a conversation, because what she is doing, this embodiment, that was really like something that I felt was missing. I couldn't really feel into it, and I was doing things too mechanical, writing down 1,000 times, whatever. It wasn't working for me. And that is really when I thought, yeah, if I want to change something, I also need to do different things. And that is when I met you, and when we started to work together. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I like, that you mentioned something that, of course, for both of us, it's very clear. And I think for many, probably still in trying to understand and grasp what embodiment is, which will become more clear along this episode.
Mhm.
But I love that you said that there is this mechanical part of
Yeah.
it. So trying also kind of on your own and doing it from your head, right? Trying to
Yes.
find all the meaningful answers probably that you were seeking, and
Yeah.
trying to do it in writing. Yeah.
And really also this push energy, doing more, buying another whatever. It wasn't moving the needle for me. No.
Beautiful. How did you feel at that, at that beginning journey, means before making the decision that something needs to change? You mentioned that I was not really making the impact that I want. So how does it feel, so that, listeners can really kind of connect with that?
I felt really maybe under pressure. I mean, I'm not 21 anymore. That's very clear, I guess. Although I hope to think. Yeah, time is just passing, and 1 year is passing, the next year is passing, and you think, is this really everything there is? And I had some big dreams. I still have them, and slowly I see them now also materialize. And indeed, what you say is that I was doing everything alone, and actually, I felt proud that I could master things on my own. I was really self-reliant, you could say, oh, I could do this. And, I was proud that I had accomplished so much. But then I also realized to go to the next level, you need people. And self-actualization requires more people. You can't do it on your own. And I came to realize that later, but that was really, I want someone who is doing what I want to do in the way that I also want to do it. And there is a sense of ease to it. There is a sense of joy to it, instead of pushing, doing harder, doing more, and being frustrated in the end.
Yeah, and I think you also beautifully share that finding it in a much more joyful and flowing and easier way, which is a different paradigm that I think still so many of us, and we've been there too, a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
Is used to this, what you mentioned, working hard, doing a lot, and doing it from thinking as well, which brings some progress, of course. It's still a paradigm that brings, of course, success as well for many, many people.
Yeah.
But it's also not sustainable or not pleasurable and enjoyable.
No, and I really, really had to dig the paradigm, hard work. Hard work is the only way to get something, which is just not true. I can really now very much relate to that. It's not only in the head, it's really so much more. It's really the heart and your desires and your soul that are playing a role in the manifestation of, your dream life.
Yeah, and so much connection to the level of lead, right? Which we'll also touch on. So basically, I hear that there was this dissatisfaction, frustration, and seeking something different. And then my post, I think, came into your world, and somehow there is was felt resonance. Now, I remember stepping into that was one of the first bold decision that you needed to take, right? To invest in yourself. And I think you mentioned it before, that also you were very proud of doing things by yourself on your own. So tell us more about it, because I think quite a lot of people are hanging exactly there in this resistance of not looking for help, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I have to go back to my youth. I had to do everything by myself. The answer when I posed a question, it was always no. So at a certain point, you just start to manage that. You don't rely on other people because, if the answer is no, you might as well do it yourself. Yeah, so that got me going. And it just never crossed my mind to ask someone for help, not even my husband. And he's very willing to help me, but he's not even offering it because it just didn't cross my mind. I really think I only started 2 years ago with really asking people for help. And I turned it around for myself because I love to help people. And the satisfaction and the joy it brings me, I'm actually not giving to other people or not allowing other people to help me and also to receive the help. There was a big paradigm shift, very big.
Yeah, and imbalance actually, right?
It's more in flow, It goes, you give and you get. And you don't give for the getting, but it's just in flow. And I've been doing it ever since. And indeed, like you say, a lot of women especially have this problem. And also in the corporate world, they keep on adding stuff to their to-do list. I can do that. But no, it's not the right way. You need to be in flow. It's a give and take.
Yeah. So what do you think was holding you back from asking? Of course, it was shaped by, childhood's experiences. But what was holding you back from asking? Or what were the narratives playing in the background that held you back from asking for help?
I mean, people can't help me. That was a narrative. I don't know what I want, so how can I ask for help? I'm not clear yet on to what I want, so how can people help me? So that again puts, the pressure on myself.
I understand. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these things can come from so many different narratives, of course, triggered by our mind.
Yeah.
That wants to keep us exactly there and not grow.
Yeah.
And I found also, through experiences with other people that I had honor to guide, it's sometimes this fear of what they will think about me when I ask. Oh, now I'm not good enough. And that's why I need to ask. So there can be so many various narratives. So thank you also for sharing, how that mind narratives and sabotage of the mind actually was playing. And then what helped you to overcome that? What helped you to say, okay, stop to that and let's all.
Yeah, I think dreaming bigger. Really thinking deeply about what do I want? What do I really want? And in the beginning, I had difficulty with defining that. What do I really want? Is it $1 million? Is it this? It was more outside expectations of what a successful life looks like. It took a while, and then I started to really think, what are my values? What do I love? And, part of it is fun, part of it is joy, adventure, love, obviously. So I started to go more into that direction. What is adventure? For instance, going to Dubai and then, onward connections to Singapore and Malaysia, where I've never been. Singapore I've been, but Malaysia not. For me, that is really living my dream life, living with adventure. So I started looking more inward. What do I really like? What gives me joy? And every time choosing that. And that started to move things.
Beautiful, because it does, right? Once we start to shift from what doesn't work, what we don't want, to what do we want. And as you said at the beginning, it's not easy, it's not flowing, it's not coming because we don't ask ourselves this question.
Yeah.
And then when you start to realize as well, what is the deeper side of this? What do you want? Information comes, possibilities comes.
Yes, absolutely.
And people like myself come through your way because that's just how it is. Because we do need, despite on this envisioning, of course, people that can be the bridge from where we are to where we really envision as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also a saying: when the student is ready, the teacher comes along. I think that's really what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, the readiness play an important role, I think, as well.
Yeah,
that's true. So, looking back on this 1 year we had actually together, what were the biggest breakthroughs for you in this journey?
There were a few of them. Yeah, every time the activations. I mean, it wasn't a breakthrough in itself, but the exercises that you did really unlocked something on an energetic level, I would say. And I mean, I could really feel that there was a process going on. I couldn't put my finger on it really, but it was a process that went along. I think the biggest breakthrough was really to stepping into, I mean, that is a movement that I'm creating, let love lead. So live your life by your desires, live it in the way that you want it. Choose love every time. So yeah, that was a big breakthrough that I stepped into that let love lead, because it's a big thing, especially to launch it in the corporate world. Love is not really a word that people can do something with. And it's still in the process of being amplified. But I made the first step, and that was for me already a big step. Really, let love lead. Yeah. It was a word that I had written somewhere, or I had seen it, and I thought that's it. It was so resonant. And I didn't look at it for 5 years. And now, with your help, I started to really give it more hand and feet also in the corporate world. And to really, start to live from the inside out and try to lead yourself, first of all, really, really well. And if you do that from a place of love, things flow and you can get into calmness. You are far more resilient. You feel safe within yourself. And those are all the things that I think also in the corporate world, it can really work well. Because exactly now, with tariffs being announced, with, the turmoil in the whole world, you have to be safe within yourself because you cannot find it on the outside, right? And if that is the basis, you can do anything, I think.
Yeah.
So that is where this self-leadership really comes in, from a place of love for yourself, love for life, a loving energy that can really transform people, but also places. And that is what I hope to achieve with this movement, that people stand more into their greatness, more into themselves, into their power, into their strengths, so it can really create a ripple effect across the board in your personal life, in your professional life. It doesn't matter. So you can meet challenges, head on without being shaken up, or, you can really stand your ground.
Yeah. And since you bring that topic of kind of connecting with your mission, right? What still need to happen in the corporate world, you think, or in our society so that we actually see it?
People need to be more aware also of their, like you were saying, saboteurs, of their autopilots, programming. It's like a virus code in a computer. It runs in the back and you don't even know it. So I think awareness is a great thing. Consciousness, awareness is very important. Because what I see really is a lot of people pleasing, a lot of adapting, accommodating, complying.
Yeah, which is one of the way we can sabotage ourselves. And that leads me actually to a beautiful question connecting the dots with your journey, right? So what were the things that you need to break through on or let go of from your autopilot in order to step into owning that movement, right? And then obviously that impact, that mission that you're having.
To not know everything beforehand, to trust, to be patient. And I had to let go of resistance also and go more into acceptance. This is what I want. It's going to happen. When, I don't know, but I'm going to make moves into that direction because I believe it's important. It's important for me. It may be important for the world, for other people. So I had to really overcome also resistance. And indeed, the idea of not being good enough or who am I to come up with something like that, I think, not good enough. But doing it anyway and find out along the lines, along the process. But I think also I had to really stop the push energy, really surrender and allowing things to happen in their own way, and sometimes quicker than I thought, like the things that I'm experiencing now, and other things take a little longer, but that's the way it is. But continue to take actions, however small, it doesn't matter. And that is really what once I stopped the block of resistance, things started to move.
Yeah, so it's letting go of playing small, kind of, we can say. And those, I think, common for so many of us. I could obviously recall also many of those narratives that you mentioned, right? Like, who am I, right? And I think for many, many of us, it's that is on the mind is one of the resistance of allowing yourself actually to step into something bigger. Allowing yourself to explore that mission that you're here for in this earth, right? The true mission, the true meaning, and the true leadership, and who you really are.
And maybe also because it's opposite to let love lead, because I think many people let fear lead. Let fear lead in their way, And for me, it may have been fear of judgment from others, and what other people might think about it. I've really started to let go of that.
What helped you most in letting go of this resistance, letting go of these fears and narrative?
To really connect with a greater vision. And also the vision board that you helped me with is really a great exercise to keep on connecting with it in the daily practices, in meditation. And to also really, and that's probably the segue into embodiment, to really feel as if you're already there, as if you're already the leader of a huge movement, as if you're already working from everywhere in the world, not being defined by a location. Those kind of things, doing what you love. Like for me, that's coaching, definitely. So it's already in everyday life, stepping into small actions and already feeling, this is it. And already, it's a deeper knowing that it's going to happen. And you may not know when or how, but it is what you want. So when you make the steps and when you can feel the joy of the whole thing, it's going to happen sooner or later. I'm really convinced of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. What you shared is like first overcoming this inner narratives and that create resistance, which still comes from our mind, right? Which then takes some phase itself to first see it even, and then to let go of that. Yeah. Of course, the vision board is vision itself, right? It's when we realize that the vision is bigger than the fear. At least that's how I remember from my own journey as well. Was like this. Okay, now the resistance can fade away. I think the second what I like that you bring is this that we all have access to, right? Is actually going the next step to. For me, it's like the switching from I'm not there yet towards I'm owning that. I'm embodying that, right? Which means
and
I am
exactly. And I'm on my way. I'm on the way. It's part of the process. It's part of the road. It's a journey and I'm on my way. I may not be there yet, and that's completely okay, And maybe it's also to not be overly attached to the outcome or exactly how it will manifest.
Absolutely.
That's also very interesting, I find.
Yes, this kind of letting go and surrendering, right? So there is a lot of dance, right?
Yeah.
There is a lot of dance in this whole embodiment journey and embodiment of that vision and identity, right? Of who you want to be more of.
Yeah.
And in order to leave from that space, right? And take actions that you mentioned.
Yeah.
But there is this dance between I am it and I'm attached to these results, which I think also in corporate world, we still do quite a lot, right? We so much focus on performance and goals. And then when we don't achieve it, there is a lot of judgment, not maybe panic, but a lot of like push. That's when the push energy come into play. Into now we have to do the control mechanism of the mind comes.
Absolutely. And especially if you're in innovation, etc., that really works against you, because innovation, you have to feel safe to really express yourself, to really come forward with the crazy ideas you may have, right? Together with other people in that area can create amazing things, but you can only do that if you're not stressed, if you're not fearful, if you feel that the environment is such that you can express yourself, that you can, contribute in the way, to your highest potential. And what I find is that many people are not doing it, or do it once and then they get, they walk against the wall and they stop doing it. They're not doing it anymore. So it's the fear is kind of overtaking them and they start to comply and not really bringing everything they've got to the table.
Yeah, because this is a beautiful that to bring also this, if we simplify it, right, our mechanism of ourselves as human beings is always this inner conflict or game that is playing beneath the surface. We're not actually aware of it in every little moments, unless we make it very much aware, but is this fear versus love, right? Everything goes back to this source. And fear, for listeners, to kind of connect the dots in leadership, is all about micromanagement, it's about controlling, it's about hyperachieving, and attaching to the results. You're so exactly pleasing, you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So those are those different mechanisms that are all nurtured by our fear coming from ego mind, right? And survival mechanisms that we are so much actually conditioned.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's part of our evolution, right? As human beings. And then there is this other side, which connects with, you say, the other energy, not pushy energy, but more flow and ease.
Yeah.
Love is the base of it, right?
Exactly.
When we talk in leadership again, compassion, empathy, but also boldness. It's not about being soft. Sometimes people confuse, right? The empathy with softness. It's not about being soft. It's about being empathic and bold at the same time. Yes, you can. And that's also a source of love, of service, right? Being in purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And many people seem to forget that handling or doing something out of love is always good. It can also be confronting someone with something that is really not okay. Because very often we just, talk behind people's backs, or we let it within ourselves, and we make up whole stories about it, instead that we are transparent and give clarity to the other person. This is not okay. I think that is also an act of love. People may not see it and see it as a conflict or whatever, but I don't think so. And if you manage to get out of something like that in a better shape, you have created again balance and love and good vibes.
Yes.
So it's
and it requires courage. It requires stepping into that bolder version of yourself, so that you can deliver that message in a non-judgmental way, right? Not out of fear, but out of love, right? So that's also from which place of energy are we actually delivering that message as leaders?
Yeah.
That's completely, it could be the same action, but it makes a completely different ripple effect.
Completely.
Depending from where we're coming, actually.
And it is felt. It's a felt sense, It's, you probably in corporate world is now something like psychological safety and a safe space. That's all important, absolutely. But it must be a felt sense. It cannot just be a concept. Like in a training, that is important. You agree with it, but you have to really live it, and people feel it. It is really something. If a fearful person say, this is a safe space, you can say whatever you want, and then there's silence. That's very obvious. That the safe space is not felt by other people. Whereas if you have invested in the relationship and really mean well with your actions, people open up. I mean, they're happy to discuss and contribute. So that is for me always a sign when there's really complete silence, and say, is everything clear? Yeah.
That's this kind of superficial silence.
Totally.
And I think it goes back to what you said before, because it is where we go to leadership development or strategic leadership or MBAs, all of this beautiful stuff. Yeah. But we are still in the mind. We're still in a concept. We're still into awareness, but awareness in a conscious mind awareness.
Yeah.
But we are not embodying that. And that is what you also said at the beginning of the journey. That was this different thing that you started to notice. This is what I miss. It's not from knowing, because there's so much knowing, and leaders have so much access also to everything today. Yeah. We all have, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is not on knowing. It's not a problem of information or even a strategy. The problem is in embodying that, right? In being that. And in doing also different actions, right? But being, right? That executive presence, we call it also sometimes. The energy we transpire is something which is the most important factor here.
Exactly. And I think especially the energy can also create a kind of a pull. Like a magnetism. And I think the energy that you can bring into something. I mean, how often do people really say, what does success look like for you? How often does a team say that, when it's not just the numbers, but how do we want to work together? What does success look like? How do I like to work with people? What do I like to do? If there would be more conversations like that, the outcomes would be so much easier to attain and so much more joyful, because you're all working towards a certain goal, a certain vision of a product, of an innovation, of a teamwork, whatever it is. And everybody feels then that they can contribute. So it's not a push energy. You must and you have to and you should. but it's, I like to. I
I
want
choose to,
to.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It's more
Yes.
like a pull, you're pulled into it, and it creates togetherness.
Exactly. Beautiful example of, how you can do it, what you mentioned, right? To
Yeah.
have these conversations, and inclusion here play an important role, and
Yeah.
bring people and emotions, right? Talking about emotions, which is still like this delicate space in the corporate world. But circling back to your journey as well, was wondering, what would you say or share with the listeners was the biggest challenge for you as well, in this journey of stepping into your next level, right? So that you can radiate that magnetic energy,
Is
align.
really, really overcoming resistance
Mm-hmm.
and really going all in. Yeah. Not just half, or, you invest in yourself and then you think, why did I do it? It's an awful lot of money. What does it bring? It's the narratives again, but
Mm-hmm.
instead to to really put those aside and say, this is what you want. You take it all in. You paid for it, and you're gonna benefit from it. It's really a different narrative for yourself.
It's just claiming it.
It's claiming, it's accepting that this is the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also trusting, right? Trusting the
Trusting and
process, of
believing.
course,
Yeah.
trusting the other person, but also trusting the process and trusting yourself.
Yes.
This is what are the three trusts that I usually kind of sense is the playground of this decision making. And usually it's not about the process, even because it's not known, but it's about trusting yourself that
Yeah.
you can make it, believing yourself that you can make it, because that's, as you say, is an important ingredient in this whole
Yeah.
success journey in anything you do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really believing that, this is really a big step forward. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
What role played self-love and self-worthiness or self-worth in your journey?
Yeah, it's really when I started investing in myself, also bigger amounts, not just, a freebie or a $7 or a $20 product, but really bigger amounts. It was also allowing myself to step into this other version, this more
Mm,
elevated or evolved version, because someone like that would invest that kind of money
mm,
in herself. It was already, I was really easy, and for me decisions are also, very often coming from the heart and from the gut feeling. This is something I feel I have to do, and then I do it. And then later on, I've experienced also that I start to question myself. And yeah, it's like half, which is not good. So I have hindered also myself to get to the results that I want. So that was also a big insight. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are
Yeah.
sabotaging our success through that.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is, it's a great example also for listeners, is like, take decisions from which place. This is a checkpoint, right? From which place do you actually take any decision of investment or decision in a company? Because you kind of played
Yeah.
it nicely, like from your current self or from the version of you that you want to become. And that's what I'm heard has led
Yeah.
you to take different decisions as well.
Yeah. I really let my intuition play the biggest role, actually. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, what are the changes on the outside? We talked a lot about, the inside shift and leading from within, which obviously has this X factor in leadership. So, what did you started to notice that has changed on the outside? First, in maybe because you were still in a corporate world at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but
I
also
still
in
am.
a yeah, as well as
Yeah.
in your business opportunities creation and maybe your personal life. What
Yeah.
started to shift for you?
Well, it started with asking for help. I felt, and that was also the wish that I had. It's also in my vision that things become easy and effortless. That,
Mm,
I think when it's coming from the heart, from a deeper knowing, things flow better. And I started to own that more. And things were easy. And what I also noticed, I stayed calmer. No matter what was going on, I could stay really calm. And that was also calm and peaceful. Yeah, those were really some very different. aspects that I didn't expect to be so prominent, especially in a time of transition where I am in now. But it really kept me very confident, I know my worth. I know my value. I'm just going after it. No matter what is going on, I know that to be true, and I appreciate myself. That has also not always been the case, right? And those are the main shifts I feel internally, but also they radiate to the outside. People also see me as a calm, confident person who takes ownership, who leads herself, and who leads a joyful life, really. So, and people pick it up, people see it.
Yes, absolutely. And I can even sense it now when you share that and remembering kind of months back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's this, what I'm picking up is this stepping into what I call more bolder version of yourself, more confident, you mentioned as well. And the other aspect is, of course, rising in your vibrational state, right? And consciousness, which lets you to more ease and experience flow. And I remember that also brought some business opportunities like at ease, right? Not through many different searches and spending hours and thinking, worrying about it, or heavy marketing things. But it just also started to come to you when you were stepping into the next level of yourself from within.
Yeah, absolutely. I signed a contract with a company for peer-to-peer coaching in Symmetry International. Yeah, that just came from a normal conversation, and it became bigger and bigger. And before I knew it, I had signed a contract, and that is what I also see. Sometimes you are in the middle of it and you don't see the outcome yet, but then suddenly it's there.
Yeah.
And you think back and say, how could this happen,
Yeah. So it's kind of all of a sudden appear in your life, which is beautiful explanation of, staying, let me say, loyal to your vision, right?
Exactly.
Embody more and more that version of yourself who are living it, who is already there.
Yeah.
And also surrender and work, of course, let go of whatever needs to be let go, so that you follow actually that receiving part, which, let me say, in energy work on conscious manifestation with use. Now, how can someone surrender? Because this one I found is such a still misconception. Many people think surrender means giving up. And that's why this word doesn't land with some people. But we know that it's, of course, not is allowing to receive, is actually trusting. And what helps you to surrender? Because you mentioned that is, of course, or has been, and of course it is, an important part in this journey as well.
It's, you can also call it leaning into your vision, or leaning into the truth of who you are, actually. So you don't have to actively do anything, but you have to give up resistance. That's it. And I mean, I don't know if your audience is wants to do anything with the universe or so, but for me, it's really like co-creating with the universe. It's really, you can't do it by yourself. And you can accelerate it when you ask for help, not only to a person, but also to the universe, and ask for guidance, those kind of things. And then indeed, you surrender to the thought, you surrender to the vision that you have, and you're not going to force it. You're going to take action, but the action is inspired. It feels good. Sometimes it feels a little bit off, but you think, I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, there is a big difference for me to have this push energy and to have inspired action. That's a big difference in energy level for me.
So how does it feel for you? So that maybe listeners can grasp it.
Pushing is really, it feels draining to me. It feels really draining and even
heavy, right?
Even
for me, it feels like heavy. I have to.
Yeah.
I should. You mentioned that before,
must,
right?
And
And we make it heavy also by saying those words to ourselves, because of course everything is energy. So this word carry energy as well.
Yes.
So one of the things we need to also check in what words we're using, because we can be in that loop of narrative. So I have to do that. But actually, you don't have to. It's your choice, because every moment is a choice in your life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So start using what I choose to do, right? Or what I would love to do. And then actually different answers will come.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does the aligned action then feel to make it complete
Yeah,
loop?
it's this freedom of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I also find love a little bit, freedom to choose. It's really freedom also.
I was wondering, as we having this conversation, I was this question was landing like, how would you explain to people the difference between those two paradigms in a simplest way? The push and the pull.
Mm-hmm.
How would you, in your own way?
I call it, on the one hand, the push, I would say masculine,
Mm-hmm.
and the pull is more feminine. I think the pull, we're not using it enough because it has to do with your imagination. We didn't get our imagination for nothing, right? So why not use it a little more? So I think it starts with a vision, and you create a pull. So the actions you take are by definition more enjoyable because you know exactly where to go. And if you just push for, it doesn't go anywhere, it seems.
Yeah.
It's kind of pointless. Or yeah, like you say, it feels heavy, and the other one feels lighter because you know where you want to go. So any action that goes to that direction makes you already feel good because the vision wasn't created by someone else. It was created by yourself. Yeah. And I think that's the big difference.
And I like that you use the word pull, because it's like when we are living from a place, intentional place, leading and living from an intentional place, then of course we start with a vision, but not only in terms of clarity, but in terms of energy. Right? Because that's
and
also
feeling,
exactly
emotions,
feeling that, because vision lives in that place, in the right side of the brain as well, right? Vision is emotion, or inspiration is emotion.
Yeah.
And I like what you mentioned, is like, is this shift or not? We have to achieve that, we have to arrive at, and doing this old paradigm way that we all condition, like planning, executing, and doing, it has its place, but from which place we do that. And when we are kind of having that vision and we see it like, we connect with that energy, with that feeling. It feels like it pulls us towards, right? And then we follow. That's actually what you mentioned as well. The allowance of being guided.
Lean into that. Exactly. You lean into that. You're guided.
Surrender.
Yeah. You
to
don't
something
have to
bigger
have
than
all the
yourself.
answers. Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of trust that requires a lot of trust. And I think that is also what comes probably from this conversation, that the trust is, at least for me, it's become very evident. Trust is a super important part in this journey, because it's switching from something that you know and you're conditioned by, to something what is still new, as something that is still in a development. As you mentioned, it's not yet fully embraced as well in our leadership practice.
No,
it's emerging. It's emerging, and more people are seeking that different paradigm, because the other is bringing a lot of exhaustion and burnout and toxic culture.
Totally.
Versus the other, it brings more connection,
more expansion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, more innovation. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. So I feel like we went through this journey of, from the beginning to now, and we talked about, how you felt to the beginning, what led you, and what was resisting, and what led you to really embark on it yourself. And those key elements, which is vision, which is the pull, which is surrender, which is letting go of whatever is in your autopilot that you, of course, need to discover along the journey.
Yeah. It needs to become conscious. This unconscious autopilot need to become conscious. Yeah.
What is the advice for people listening here of how could they make unconscious conscious?
Well, you have to, what I do with my coaching, and now I can easily detect patterns, well, more and more, because I went through all of them, I guess. When there is a situation that you are annoyed about, write it down in great detail. What is happening? What is happening over and over again? How are you thinking? what is your reaction? What is the counter reaction? Just write down and see what is happening every time. And of course, it is difficult to make the unconscious conscious, but that is where coaches are for, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So to put you to the right mindset and to put you in the right with the right questions to really, get you to think and also get you to feel and understand. Oh my God, this is really a pattern.
Yeah. So this detection of the pattern indeed is like this first awareness level. Is like, oh, there is something repeating, because that's how the autopilot works.
That's a pattern, right? Yeah. And also how you yourself play a role in keeping up the pattern. Yeah, how you are part of it.
As you mentioned before, you create it.
You create it.
Create or co-create, but
exactly.
in this way you
create it also. Your misery you also create.
Yes. That's what actually many don't realize, right? That manifestation is 24/7. It's just conscious or unconscious, and your reality is reflection of your inner world, right?
Absolutely.
And this autopilot that you play.
Yeah.
So Marlies, how this journey has actually also helped you as a coach to serve others?
Your own awareness and your own, pattern detection and your own saboteurs, are probably also things your clients are dealing with, right? I think if you have lived them and if you have solved them for yourself or you have become more aware, it is so much easier to also detect it with others. See, by listening to them, that's just the way it is.
Yes.
So because you went through the experience yourself and you learned from it, you are in a better position to help others do the same or even better.
You cannot guide your clients in the places that you have not been. And it's not only for coaches, right? Because obviously people listening here, many are leaders, not coaches.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same for leadership, right? And leaders. You cannot help your employee if you don't know how to deal with your own emotions.
Yeah.
You don't know that this is pattern and it comes from your fears in the past.
Yeah.
You just will miss it, right? Or you don't know how to listen and be present, which or trust yourself.
Totally.
So if you have not gone to these places and worked on suppressed emotions or your vision and discover yourself really, really deeper, you can't lead effectively and help another employee and person in your team or stakeholder.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think especially self-awareness, that's the number one that people need to sort out. Yeah.
That's
but if you're not self-aware, then you don't know what you don't know. But unless people are open and say, this is not working for me, or they really feel something is off, or they're tired all the time, or they have also physical problems, whatever it is, then probably your way isn't the way that really works in the end or creates sustainable results. Then you have to try something else.
Yes, and as you mentioned in the beginning or somewhere in the middle, that let's honor where we are because something got us here. But as Marshall Goldsmith in his book, right?
Yeah.
Expanded on this whole topic, what got you here will not get you there.
Exactly.
And as you, realize that at some moment, okay, this level of support and decisions I'm making into helping myself, into discovering myself, because of course you were growth oriented person and very reflective person, right? Like many leaders are, and looking for solutions on your own. Like also many people are, right?
Yeah.
But at a certain moment, you need to realize that was staying in resistance. That was playing against you and keeping you in that patterns and repetitions. And so to get to the next level, you needed to unlock something from within.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. So Marlies, where is your next destination with Let Love Lead? Where is it going?
It is first letting my love lead. So I'm in the transition now at this moment. I will be going out of corporate. I'm really very much looking forward to really focus entirely on my own business, something that I couldn't spend enough time on over the past couple of years. I would say I have managed my own mindset. Yeah, I feel very excited about the future. Yeah.
Beautiful. And who are the people that you would love to support?
Well, actually, I want to support really corporate leaders and also middle managers and also employees, actually, everyone in corporate who feels off, who feels drained, tired, who doesn't know what to do or feels stuck, feels lost, overwhelmed, who are very much in their heads. I can guarantee them that I can, within 3 months, bring them to their hearts, to their bodies, where there is a lot of knowledge, where they maybe don't look for. So people who are very much in their heads, I think they need to reconnect to who they are, their essence, their heart, their desires. Because a lot of people just, they just comply, this is what life is. Yeah, I'm not happy with it, but I stick around, because I don't know what the alternative is, but there is an alternative.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help them with that. And the changes can be enormous in a very short time. So
absolutely, as we know it. And this is also something I think to bring at the end of our conversation, that so many fearing to step, because we're both into this limiting belief of change will take time. But it will not if you know where to actually look. And as you mentioned with you beautifully, your mission is to help. And surely listeners here will be interested to explore that, because it is going at the end from the head to yourself, to your heart, to your soul. The whole embodiment, right, is also exactly around stepping into that and trusting, as you say, your inner wisdom, your resources, your body, your intuition, your vision, all of that. So beautiful. And I just can't wait to hear, about all the success stories and the people that, of course, will be served by you. And as we know, there are many. So there is a lot of work in that space for a lot of coaches still.
Exactly.
So Marlies, concluding our beautiful conversation, what would you recommend to leaders who are listening here, on a different level? I don't know who is really, if there are executives and maybe some of them are in the earlier stages of leadership. What would you recommend to them if they feel that, there is something more within them? They want to grow, they want to make a bigger impact, they want to feel more connected, but they are not there and they are lost, right? Stuck, you mentioned.
I think the first thing, and that is already a big step, to ask for help, to call, to take up contact with you, to take up contact with me, to take up contact with another coach. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't have to be this way. But because leaders typically also, they maybe also are in a narrative, I need to know everything, right?
Of course.
So, but to admit, this is not working for me and I need help is already a huge step. Is already huge awareness. And it can only, when you're open, then magic can happen. When you're closed, nothing will happen.
You're missing opportunities, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of what you don't know that you don't know. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Spot on. And I think I couldn't, I can totally only agree with you. And obviously, for people who went through this journey, right, it's so much easy to look back and say, why I have not, even done it earlier, right? Because we all dealt with that resistance in the first place and wasted some time and all of that. That has been also part of my journey. So I think, sharing that wisdom and this call to action, I guess, as well for listeners today in the show, over and over again from many people, I hope is also an invitation. An invitation for those who don't know what to do, feel stuck, or feel there is actually more within them, but I also don't know how. So not necessarily you're at the burnout point, but you feel there is really so much more you can do. So it can be different station.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where coaches come into place to help you to unlock that potential within yourself and lead more impactfully.
Yeah. And enjoy life a little more.
Absolutely, because the ripple effect is everywhere. That's true. Thank you very much, Marlise. That's a beautiful point to finish as well, right? We'll be putting a LinkedIn link to the description. I guess this is the best place to connect with you for anybody who listens and would like to take a lead.
Yeah.
And good news, you will have more time for it as well, right? So more blocks and opening slots for conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It has been once again a pleasure to guide you.
Same.
And especially, it's always a very unique journey, especially when it is with a fellow coach, right? That's something even, more a connection point with it. It's a bit different, that's true. And that's why it makes it also magical. So thank you very much for following yourself to be guided, right? That's, I think, number one.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And, to surrender and to trust the process, because not every moment has been, of course, with the total ease, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
And this is also where the support is so valuable. Absolutely. So thank you very much for being.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your guidance.
Thank you very much also for today. And to all the listeners, thank you very much for listening to us. And I'm sure that you took a lot of wisdom and insightful and valuable ideas for yourself, and seek for the right support, because that is what will get you to the next level. And see you next time.